Tonight on The Rundown, we're confronting a question that suddenly feels urgent. What happens when artificial intelligence becomes a weapon of war? From a dramatic standoff between the Pentagon and an AI company over military use of advanced models to drones and cyber warfare reshaping the war in Iran, technology is no longer just supporting war, it's redefining it. The real battle may not be on the battlefield, but over who controls the algorithms that decide the future of conflict. Let's get into it. Welcome to The Rundown. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome everyone to The Rundown. So good to have you here. We've got a big show. This is episode 70 of The Rundown. And I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude that we've been able to do this for this long. We've got a few things to talk about and even more people to talk about them with. Everyone's favorite host, Bill Davis. How you doing, sir?
I'm just wondering who you were talking about.
Wait, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. What am I doing here? I got so excited I kept pressing buttons. Bill, how are you?
I am really good. It is so nice to be back. I really wanted to come back last week, but my dog had a little health issue, so I wasn't able to do it. But it's great.
The dog okay?
He's okay, but he is at end of life. We've had him for a number of years, and I think he's in decline. So it's just something that everybody who loves pets has to go through. I mean, you know that the one downside of our companion animals is they tend not to outlive us, so you have to face that when it comes around.
It's never easy. I'm really glad that you're here with us, though.
Thank
you. Good to see you. And of course, hello, Tamara. How are you?
Well, I am fine now.
You are back. You are not
I am
in
back.
New York.
This is true.
How was the trip?
And it was good. It was very different kinds of weather, but I spent a lot of time indoors listening to 200 plus actors who were amazing.
Wow.
So
wow.
Now I'm at the offer stage. That's the fun part.
Very nice. Very nice. And Mr. Mobley, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm looking forward to our discussion next week. We're going to be continuing the AI stuff and talking about education and AI.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice education panel. This is going to be a little bit different than the past conversations that we've had about AI. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. Good to see you here. Lois, how are you?
Hello. Everything is wonderful. Well, no, it's not. I was going to say something serious, but you need so much laughter in my life right now because the outside stuff is so hard that I look out my window and I go, hummingbirds.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I need that. So.
I agree with you. It is so important amidst the insanity of the world to find moments and places to just look at the trees, just look at the birds, just look at the whatever, and to find some comic relief, which is, of course, why this guy is here.
This is where I come in. You see,
yeah,
I'm
this
here
is
for
why.
the comic relief.
So
that's all I'm here
we've
for.
got Dave and Poutine. That's what we've got.
That and the various props that I bring to bear on this show.
Right.
Yes. No, I brought poutine into the discussion because around the world there are foods that are certified and designated like champagne and stuff. And they're working, we have our maple syrup thing, right? Everybody knows Canadian maple syrup, so that's easy. So I was just trying to lighten things up before we got underway because we're all going to be in tears by the end of this.
No, we're not. And we're certainly not going to start in tears. We're not going to start in tears because we've got things to. What did I do?
Sky. Where's Sky?
You left Sky out.
No, he doesn't count anymore. No,
We've just degraded.
Oh, no. Dos, tres.
All
We're
right.
going
to make up for my misfire.
What's the news?
Sky will now be doing the rest of the show by himself.
So the tea that I'm drinking is from Yogi, and it says the universe is within you, bright and beautiful. Okay, so this is a tea in honor of. Hi there, guys. It's good to bring you here.
Sorry, Sky.
It's good to be here with all these perspectives.
It's good to.
And
good
yes,
to have
joy is in the worst of times, I've been actually on the ground zero of disasters, of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. I've always found the best in humanity is at those locations because it strips away all the BS and all the stuff that people are trying to sell you. So as we are in hard times, we are also here together.
Absolutely.
There you go. Tag, you're it.
And when all else fails, let's buy stuff. So,
hey, you got any stuff to buy, David?
I have some stuff to buy. I'm not selling anything, but I've got some stuff to buy. Where's my little ticker? It's not coming up. Come on, ticker. So the two news stories that we wanted to hop on today. The first is about Wave Next. So Wave Next, for any of you who don't know Elgato, Elgato is the one of the many creator tool platforms and systems out there. It actually is part of Corsair. It's a part of a much larger gaming company, but Elgato is really kind of the core gaming piece of it. Well, they all this week, or was it last week? I guess it was last week, had a slew of announcements that they came out with. I think the one that a lot of people was talking about was this. What is this? The Stream Deck Pro XL Plus or Plus X. It's basically they took a Stream Deck XL, 32 keys, added 4 more keys to it, six knobs at the bottom, and a touch interface, and they said, "Here you go." It's gonna. I mean, it's bigger than anything I've ever seen. There are a few people in the office hours community that already have these on order. For
the price of a Mac Mini.
All for the price, right? It's about $350. But they also have a whole bunch of audio gear that they came out with. They redid their audio, the app that they use, Wave. Here's my question. My question is, where does all of this stuff fall on the consumer, prosumer? Like, where is that? Who buys the, other than us? Who is this for? Who buys this stuff?
Didn't the company intentionally go from mostly consumer products and is now trying to break into the professional market? Isn't that what this is all about?
I don't think it is professional market stuff. First of all, I could be sponsored by Elgato. There's so much Elgato in my world that it's crazy. But I've always thought of it kind of, and this is, now they're going to de-sponsor me because I think of it as kind of the Fisher Price of technology. It's for people like me who wanted to get into technology or who are in those kind of gaming spaces. Now, I have the Wave 3 mic. That was my first mic. I didn't love it, but I loved the software. What they're doing here, I love all my Stream Decks, I have to say, all of them, and that one does look good. What I feel like they're doing here is they're making pro choices, but if you really look at it, it's pro choices with ease of use. So they're bringing more of a pro quality, or that's their hope, in a way that is not technical. So that their audience is still the same. They're just offering things that are in between pro and prosumer.
Yeah, the one thing that I feel is a little more prosumer is this Wave XLR Pro. So this is their new audio interface. It's got 2 XLR inputs. Excuse me. In some ways, it's a headless mixer or a headless interface, and you do all the mixing, you do all your work on the
software.
On the software. I would have gotten this. I would have jumped on this. I'm very disappointed that they don't have combo jacks on the back, that it's only XLR. Because what I need 2 inputs, and I need one of them for my guitar, for my 1/4-inch plug. So that's why I won't be buying that. And
I like their equipment though. For an entry level into technology, it's really sturdy. If you're talking about like our friends who are all professionals, they're not looking at it through a sturdy lens.
No,
they're not looking at it that way. But I think lots of people can.
But you go into production trucks nowadays, they're all rocking Stream Decks.
Right. Right.
I don't know about
That's
all,
because
but
it hit a sweet spot, I think. After work from home, I think this niche of the production gear world just exploded, and I think it's still exploding. I mean, none of us would have been switching from our bedrooms 5, 10, 15 years ago. Right. It was unthinkable. And now everybody wants to do it. There are so many people who are doing work from home, or like my wife does, she spends 3 days a week in the newsroom and 2 days working from home connected to a newsroom. And so these are exactly the kinds of tools.
When each of the production facilities was $1 million room, you had to have things that were sturdy and steady. If you needed to take it in and out of a truck, it needed to be hard and full of metal. But now that you've got how many tens of thousands of studios, i.e. bedrooms,
right?
Well, of course, you're going to find the sweet spot. Of course, you're going to use non-quote professional plugs because you can't afford to sell a $700 item. I mean, there are how many devices that, Bill, you and I used to have that were several $1,000s just to do basically the same thing.
Right.
But by
plus, this stuff is programmable now. So, you add a Stream Deck and companion, and the next thing you know, you really have to be pretty technically sophisticated to enable all the things that are possible with a $300 piece of gear. It's friend, very deep, along with being inexpensive.
I heard the one comment from George in the office hours community. He says they put the buttons on the wrong side. They need to be at the top.
Right. It's like the knobs, you mean?
The knobs.
We were having a conversation about some upcoming shows for office hours, and we were talking about the Stream Deck, and I don't mean to call him out, but he's fantastic. Jeff Keithley was making fun of me, I think, because he said,
"What was Jeff?" If it's one F, Jeff,
because he said, we could talk about this and it would be great, and the two people who still use the Stream Deck software. Well, I'm one of those two people.
I love the Stream Deck software
because of Tamara, what you were saying before is, and also Bill, what you were just getting at, that in one way these tools can be Fisher pricey, and the Stream Deck software kind of allows us to use them as dumbed down, simple tools. But then you jump into the companion stuff, and you jump into the buttons stuff, and it's a little crazy what the power that they also have.
But
it's
you
the
can
old
use them
Apple
on
progressive
action.
Disclosure thing. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
No, you can use them when in action, which is what's so great about when you use Companion, you have to really think ahead of time, and you've got to really plan out what you're doing. It's the same with Zoom Production Studios. You got to know you can't do that on action. Things like Ecamm and things like Stream Deck, I can be in the middle of something and go, you know what I need? I need a button right now. And I could literally be calling a bunch of cues and creating a button at the same time. It is that simple. And that's one of the reasons why I will not get rid of it.
By the way, Peter Sargent, he's making an excellent point, and I can't believe I didn't say this. I completely forgot to mention the Stream Deck Studio, which is this very meant for pros. It's a rack mounted,
piece.
And Peter ordered his Stream Deck Plus XL yesterday, and it arrives on Saturday. Not fair. Not fair.
We aren't going to see Peter for a little while.
That's right. We're not. All right, last word, Dave. Go ahead, then we're going on.
Well, as a guy who's right now using a Wave XLR 2, I'm very happy with the image quality, the sound quality, and I only needed one input because it's a mic going right into a Mac. And they have the Pro, which is 2 mic inputs, and I don't know, David, whether that's good enough for you or whether the inputs offer the 3/4 inch phone jack.
1/4 inch input, yeah.
So
I'm using
that's where my first webcam was an Elgato cam, and I didn't use the mic. I came very close to the mic, but when I saw the Stellar X2 being used by the sonorious Mr. Courtney Goodman, then I had to sound like him. So that was all I was doing.
Well, there you go.
But good luck with that.
We're using equipment now that was not designed to last for as long as we're using it, but we're also not moving it or touching it. As long as you don't move it or touch it. HDMI is a horrible connector device. And I've trained my church, do not play with it. just very carefully every week. So it's become sacred and sanctified now that you barely touch it and you barely move it.
Yeah.
And it's lasted for 5 years. But otherwise, yank, jerk, this poor little knob right here. Oh, I've so broken it so hard.
Yeah, those on the bottom of the shore, those inputs are not fantastic. On the other side of this, so we've got Elgato doing prosumer, some pro, some consumer stuff. We have Apple this week that came out and said, well, here's something new. We're going cheap.
Yep.
And they created this MacBook Neo, the iPhone 17e, and a bunch of other stuff. That they put the M5 in the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. They upgraded the iPad Air. To my mind, I think the most part of this whole announcement was the Neo. And I think there are two things that are very surprising about it. Number one, obviously the price. You could get this with the educator pricing for $500. That's insane. And the second thing that surprises me about it is that it doesn't, like I would have expected it to be a plastic, not well-built computer. It looks super solid. Of course there are trade-offs. There's no backlit keyboard. You're only getting this many gigs of RAM, and you don't have the Touch ID is only on the more expensive model. But generally, for my daughter, who I need to buy a computer for, done.
It's a huge shot across the bow of Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Because Chromebooks have been hugely problematic, particularly in large education distributions. I remember talking for hours to people who are trying to manage those, and they have, decent managing software so that somebody can work on an elementary school classroom full of kids and update them remotely and things like that. But the hardware has always failed pretty quickly, and it doesn't have a lot of back-end capability. So this may end up trashing that.
Alex used to always talk about how Apple hardware allows for creativity, and Chromebooks really sort of quash creativity. Sky, go ahead.
Well, anybody remember the Wang computer?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Bill?
I'm sorry. Wait,
what was
the
it?
Wang?
Yeah.
The Wang was a
W-A-N-G.
big, back in the green screen era, even before the, what is it, ochre or yellow, font type. It was just a big monitor, but it had a pipe coming out the end of it, and it went all the way down the hallway to the big computer at the end of the building. And then all the other little rooms had little cables coming out. Well, that's what we are living in, the land of remote processing now. So all this is just the Wang 30 years later with the ability to connect to the internet. So it doesn't need to have the hard drive. It doesn't need to have it's just a delivery device for the internet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think this is a little more than, though, a thin client machine, which is what you're describing, because they were pretty dumb. And I think this on board has a pretty decent capability for a single worker who's not doing media and not doing heavy tasks. And I think they're going to sell the heck out of these because the price point is so compelling. And I think people will buy, put one in the kitchen over on the side away from the food to check recipes. And people will probably put one in the garage for working on their cars because it's just so cheap.
Bill,
Plus,
you and I used to have disposables on a video shoot that were more expensive than this piece of equipment.
Absolutely. Well, the craft services cost was 3 times.
Piece of tape,
some of our
tape
shoots.
Stock was $150 for 1 hour, and you were going to be shooting for more than 1 hour. So,
Plus, there's the whole income
way.
Inequality thing. There are a lot of people out there who are really stretched right now, and they know they need to be online. They know they need to be working with computers, but they just don't have big budgets. Yeah. So if this will give them a step in and keep their kids conversant with technology and themselves conversant with it, it may turn out to be a massive hit.
This is where Tony comes in,
and
too.
And you can buy it on a monthly payment.
Yeah, let me get Tony.
Absolutely,
Tony.
Lois.
Well, I just want to say, I think there are 2 things that jump out at me. Number one is that most of the youth in the United States are on iPhones. This automatically connects them into the infrastructure, and it's going to be big. It's really going to be big. The other thing that I look at when I see this device is that it can be an appliance device for those people who are doing professional kinds of things. It gives you all of the abilities of a Mac computer, and it's cheap enough that you can use it as an appliance for AI cloud kinds of GPUs. So I'm excited about it for for everybody.
You know what I was thinking about, Tony, when they announced it is, okay, so my next computer, I mean, I would never buy it for production, but the next time I want to drop $500 on a computer, do I go for this or do I go for a mini? And I think for me, it's still going to be the mini.
It's still going to be a mini.
It's still the mini because you've got Thunderbolt, you've got I/O, you've got all those different things. And the truth of the matter is that could I get this to be my portable computer? I guess I could. I probably would still go for a Pro. But again, for my wife, who's a teacher, for my daughters, it's a no-brainer.
I did look at it seriously.
They have on it says it's 1080p, a FaceTime HD camera. Now that is sharp.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like I think when I looked at it, because I told you I was going to look at it seriously because I do need a portable computer. And ultimately, I'm going to end up with the MacBook Air because that's my computer that needs to be replaced. And that would give me a lot more capability than this. But one of the things I was thinking about is that last year, my sister got my niece an iPad to use as her computer at school because that's where she was like, I can't afford a Mac. We'll wait till she goes away to college. Then we'll get a bigger computer. And like, this is exactly perfect for that. Because when you're talking about an iPad, it is way more expensive than this. And she's going to use it as a computer, which means she had to get a keyboard for it. And she had to do all this stuff. That was almost the price of a computer, but not quite the price. And my sister could pay it over time. Like this is exactly a perfect device for that. It's a strong enough computer. It's got the same compute power as an M1. It's an entry level price. It comes with all of the keyboard. It is a computer. And I don't know how we can compare this to the Chromebook because the Chromebook is not $500. They were $100 and they are worth $100.
That's
if
true.
That. As someone who had to go through as an educator and deal with Chromebooks, they were like, there's nothing. There's nothing that makes any teacher want to ever look at a Chromebook again. So they aren't exactly the same, but they are a better investment than a Chromebook is because a Chromebook is done in a week.
And to emphasize Tony's point, all these kids coming up with iPhones kind of understand iOS. And while this processor, is basically a subset of the iOS operating system, I think the kids coming into it will just know how to use it. So they're leveraging their incredible market penetration of the phones with a laptop step up for kids.
And of course, from Apple's perspective, this is a brilliant marketing move because all these kids who are getting these for Christmas or for birthdays or for graduations or for whatever are going to be even more locked in to the Apple ecosystem than they were before. And they won't be able to imagine going to a PC or something.
And they're super cute. They've got great colors. They're incredibly
citrus.
I know. They're really cute.
Very cute.
Fashionable.
Way, I thought
my technology. How do you like your technology cute?
I thought the movie ad, whatever they called it, where the person was actually, now I can't find it, but he was like the fingers were like smoothing out the corners. I thought that was beautiful, like elegant and beautiful and brilliant. I thought that was very, very well done.
But it wasn't cute. Was it cute, David?
It was a little cute.
Yeah, it's good. Perfect. It knows its audience. You're it.
Let's move on. Something unusual just happened in the world, in the tech world specifically. The Pentagon demanded broader access to Claude, to Anthropic's AI system for military use. And Anthropic said essentially no. There were 2 red lines that Anthropic had, and the government said that is not your decision to make. That is our decision to make. And they have now been labeled, that company, a national security risk. Nobody in the government is allowed to use Claude anymore, except for the fact that it was used extensively in the beginning and currently in the Iran war. Not to mention the fact that the very night that this news broke, Sam Altman from OpenAI posted that OpenAI had come to an agreement with the Department of Defense with the exact same terms that had just gotten Claude into trouble, which threw everyone into a little bit of a panic. Claude has now seen a rush of new users. Everybody that I know is saying, I don't know if they'll actually do it, but they're all saying they're leaving OpenAI and going to Claude. I downloaded it. I exported my memory and I imported my memory into Claude, and I tried it for the first time today and I did not get an answer I was happy with, so I went back to OpenAI. But the much bigger question that I want to start us with is, who should actually decide the limits of AI in warfare? Governments, the companies building the models who are the experts in it, or some kind of international framework? And the one thing I want to say, just to frame the conversation, is that early on in the chat, someone asked, I hope that both sides or many sides are represented. I wanted to have this conversation because I know that they will be, because I already know that Dave and I come out on different sides of this conversation, and that's why we're here. That's the whole point of this, is to dig deeper, and you can't dig deeper unless you're all kind of digging with one another. So let's start with that question. Who should actually decide the limits of the use of technology, and specifically AI, in warfare? Dave, do you want to start us off?
Sure, I'll start us off. Any large government organization has specifications for its needs. So if you're going to build a training session, training device, and a whole complex for booking people in for training and all that stuff, it's a customized environment, and it's meant to be built just for that government department. You guys have your motor vehicle software, and a lot of states use different motor vehicle registration software, all to their own needs. But when it comes to the military, their needs are quite obscure, because they have to defend every possible option. And whatever device or mechanism they can use to do that, they will employ. Now, something as simple as Morse code was easy to deploy and not a threat to surveillance. They could probably tap the railroad communication if they wanted to, but they didn't need to, because they had other aspects for discovering whether there's bad people on the train. I think it's a negotiation. It's something that somebody sets out as a spec and says, this is what this is for, and then they build for that. Now, if Anthropic were to make a custom version, as we've all heard that there's going to be a special version of Gemini for use in Apple Intelligence, then that would have been a workable thing. That the parameters for just what the military does will not come outside the box there, and it won't threaten the rest of humanity, because it's only going to be used by these people for that purpose. And I think, in the sense that nobody is really working hard to make specialized stuff yet, that's going to come around, and it'll be solved that way. Because Microsoft offers services to the military, mostly computing and operational services, but they're not building weapons. And Anthropic is not building a weapon either. But we all know the potential for a bullet is to go into a gun and be used as a weapon. It's not a decoration on your desk. So we have to be aware that there are some circumstances in which we're not going to be happy with what they decide to do with it. But as long as they're not using it against us, and it's not harming humans in our environment, or it is protecting us, then maybe we get away with it. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was the argument that Anthropic was making, is that we don't want you using this against us. Mass surveillance was one of their red lines.
The FBI already has its own software for surveilling Americans. That's easy for them.
I mean, I guess my question is,
why does the military need to surveil its own population? They think it's for defensive purposes, but it isn't.
Right, but I guess my question is, why shouldn't, and this is where you and I disagreed last week, I think, why shouldn't the people who make the product, who know it best, the scientists, the engineers, be the ones to determine when and where it is safe to be used? Why would we leave that up to government or military officials?
My concern is I'm not sure it matters. And here's why. This is my thinking on that as the last week of paying attention to this. To me, it's a battle between centralized command and control and to a certain degree decentralized command and control. And we witnessed this. Remember when they said they decapitated the Iran kind of thing, and it turns out they really didn't. And so now you've got this semi-decapitation, and it must be, because there are missiles flying both ways, there must be individuals or pockets of people who are now able to respond to things. And so what happens when you insert an AI that is a rules-based system without human judgment into a situation like that, where you take out a lot of the humans who were traditionally in that centralized chain of command, who were responsible to the people above and below them, and they're now autonomous out there in the field with deadly weapons? How is AI going to fit into that and make it safer as opposed to making it vastly less safe? That's my big takeaway from this.
I want to jump on a term that you just used. You talked about rules-based.
Centralized.
No, you talked about rules-based. And Nate Jones had a really fascinating video this week about one of the differences between Anthropic and OpenAI. And his argument is that Anthropic is a rules-based system, which is why it's far less, great question, Bill. Whereas
Lucy Goosey,
right? Yeah. Whereas OpenAI is trained on feedback. OpenAI it's almost as if it's trained to make us feel good, because it knows it will get rewarded when we like the answer, whereas Anthropic is different. So it's fascinating.
Did anybody see that passing piece of news where they did some more gaming, and it turns out that in AI-run systems, they're far more lethal. They make the decision to obliterate the enemy far more.
They're only lethal if you're in the way of the bullet.
Yeah,
right. Computers. No, but think about it. Computers are efficient, and that's their job.
Right.
Humans are humans, or at least we used to be. And war has been around since man began. So that you would dare to think this is not a tool for war is ridiculous. I mean, we started out with knives, we started out with sticks, we moved into a single, projectile that moved to multiple projectiles that moved to how can somebody else be in control of another people group?
Sky, if I could push back on that though, sticks,
please,
and knives and guns all require someone to throw, stab, or pull the trigger. And what we're talking about here is something that doesn't require us. So
that's why Anthropic says no. There needs to be rules. And if you're going to use our product, our tool, our system to do harm, that is against our ethics. That is how why we started Anthropic.
And so
that's why we left. That is why we left Sam Altman.
Do you feel like Anthropic has the right to tell the Department of Defense that they can't?
But do they though? I mean,
they don't. They have a contract.
They have their own.
But okay.
Let's get low.
Anthropic got bumped out because it was wanting to honor the contract that it had and not let the government go further.
Right.
It got trashed by the government, but its competitor negotiated the exact same thing, and it's fine. Right. So why is the government against Anthropic, but for this other company? What's going on there?
And I'm going to ask to that point. Now, this is where Troutman, please help me out. But corporate espionage is not an unknown thing. Why did it all of a sudden? Now, this is going to make me sound like a conspiracy theorist, but conspiracy ideas come from somewhere, right? So consequently, why all of a sudden did Anthropic get all of this press when OpenAI said, oh, yeah, we're just the innocent ones over here that providing and doing what the red, white, and blue tells us to do?
With
And
the
all of a
same
sudden-
I mean,
guardrails, with the
you-
same guardrails.
Right. You've got two different viewpoints here, right? So the government is saying, look, we are buying a product and we can use it however we want, which is what we do as consumers. I don't use any product the way it was intended on a regular basis, right? So that's their argument. They're like, look, we're buying it, we can use it however we want. And Anthropic is saying, no, I sold you this, and this was our contract.
Thank you.
The bigger issue is that they've turned on Anthropic and they couldn't make a deal, right? Because they turned around and made the exact same deal. That is punitive, and that's where there's a problem. So they had a contract. They said, this is what we want to use it for. You agreed to it. Then they said, look, we're consumers. We can use it however we want. And they're like, we're not comfortable with that. And that became a problem. And then that problem turned into, well, we'll just go with someone else. And they even said, if you don't like this, go with someone else. This is what we stand on.
Well, but
They
societies
did.
have always put limitations on what people
Right.
can use. You can't buy a bazooka or a flamethrower and a bunch of other things and just take it out, because everybody understands the risk of that tool being misused is socially a bad idea. So we're talking about the potential of armed drones and
Yep.
things like that being sent out in unstoppable swarms by potentially teenagers. I'm sorry, I'm not for that. So,
Right.
What do you mean potentially? Who do you think lives in the desert parts of the world and are driving these drones? These are the teenagers that are being trained to drive those drones.
Absolutely. Outside of Las Vegas, that's where most of the drone command people are. They're sitting there, and you're right, they're 20-somethings, if that.
I want to.
They go home and they shop at 7-Eleven on their
And they're
drive
under
home.
command structure, which was to my earlier point. There was a command structure in place with a lot of checks and balances built into that, because it came out of a military system that was desperate to maintain command and control over these young people. And unfortunately, what we've seen here with this decapitation thing is that suddenly the system has to function without much command and control. And that's what's got me scared about the switch over to more AI programmatic decision-making and less human decision-making.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah. So Vic Hernandez is sharing in the chat that Israeli tech firm Celebrate prohibits governmental customers from using its products for any purposes that violate human rights, privacy rights, or applicable laws. I want to get back to that applicable laws in a moment. Should more tech firms follow their lead? The reason that applicable laws is important is because that is actually the main difference between the Anthropic and the OpenAI deals. Anthropic was insisting that language that said all lawful purposes would be included, whereas OpenAI did not demand that language. And basically, the Department of Defense argument was, we don't do anything that's unlawful, so we don't need that language in there. But I'd
prefer the language.
Well, so we have companies, Celebrate apparently, OpenAI, that are saying, look, we know these tools best. We know their power. We know the harm that they can cause and the good that they can bring about. We are going to tell you what you're allowed to use them for.
I'm sorry, I'm going to say David Paskin. What was the Nuremberg trials all about? What is the world court? Why is it even relevant? And consequently, we can make laws, and I know that's what we think we want, but until somebody makes another law in their own favor, it's back to humanity. Please, Troutman, save me, Obi-Wan.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'll let you just keep digging the hole here. No, in a sense that I guess I'm more comfortable trusting my military and my Defense Department to make choices that are in my best interests.
And you're Canadian.
I'm also trusting your military to make things on your.
That's right. Yes. So I'm not going to go to your crisis of confidence there, but during the nuclear threat, which I think was even bigger than AI at this point, it was easier to get people or countries to agree not to deploy it and not to develop it because it was so expensive. And it was able to control them through availability and restrictions on machinery, components and the materials. But with AI, it's not. So I'd rather my Defense Department has a great understanding of the use of AI and its deployment so that no insurgency can take use of Claude and take over my country.
It's particularly interesting that Ukraine is still fighting against a massively larger thing successfully because they seem to have depth on their educational bench. You know, it was weird. I looked up, I don't know why I saw this, but this came up. This was a list of, from back in 2020, the number of countries topped by STEM graduates in all of these things. And we're third in this. I saw another piece, this thing about who was deploying AI, and this is 23, 24, and 25 numbers. We are down in the United States at, I think, 24th or 25th now.
What?
So yeah, we are nowhere close to having the number of professionals who are working in AI that some of these other countries do. And I don't think that bodes well for automating systems either.
So I guess my
stunning.
point comes to when the cost of this comes
It
down to
freaked
just
me
having
out.
computers
We were that far down the list.
taking over the electrical system through Claude is a possibility. And
Thank you.
the FBI know that, the CIA know that, and they have already set up systems to prevent it. I think when I heard command and control out of Bill's remarks, and not the central control, but it came to me that there are in fact rules of engagement most of the civilized countries use in the military, and you don't murder people who are surrendering. So it's that kind of thing that everybody's afraid they're going to.
Have you not seen the news this last week?
No, but we have
I'm
for
sorry.
a long time. You already said that.
I'm just saying
no,
we
there's
used to have
atrocities every
rules
week.
until you break them, and then nobody, is accountable for them.
Well,
So
that's and
there's
you
my
have-
challenge.
You have protections for journalists until somebody pretends to be a journalist. Yes, all of that stuff. We
Or
evolve.
shoots them.
Well, that's the thing. They shoot them. They think they're not a journalist.
Well, they don't. They
We're
don't
getting off the
necessarily
topic
have to
here.
not think they're a journalist if they don't like journalists. I mean,
Well, yeah,
depends on
but
the
they were
country you're in.
protected by the reputation they would get from the rest of the world community if they shot journalists from other countries. Now, some countries are immune to that kind of pressure. Other ones are not. Ukraine has a decentralized command system. They actually got rid of their central commander and put a young guy in place who brought along the drone business. And now the Brits are learning from the Ukrainians how to use the drones in warfare, in real warfare, not just training. And this kind of stuff is going on all around us. And Canada has 3 drone companies in Calgary who serve our military. They make the drones for our military. They also make them for agriculture and all the rest, but they're the ones who are going to make our drones because they're learning from the Ukrainians. You got to have a supply, and they're all going to, it's a one-use device. It goes out into the field, drops a bomb, and it's done.
A suicide drone. So there was
Yeah.
one of the stories
And
that came out.
You don't lose a guy doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the stories that came
Well,
out this
the other
past week
people lose
that was
people.
really that I thought was interesting is that for the first time ever, and apparently this is a special type of aircraft, an F-35 shot down an Iranian fighter jet over Tehran. Now, what's interesting about that is the whole thing is tragic, but what's the technology piece of that is that it's the first time an F-35 had ever apparently shot down another plane mid-flight. But here's the piece that's interesting to me, is that this is an anomaly in the way that this war is being waged, because there are no planes shooting. My father-in-law was a tail gunner in World War II. That's when planes shot down planes. Today, it's all drones. It's all these autonomous drones and vehicles that are doing this work so that exactly what you said, Dave.
The jets have guided missiles, and they don't even need to see the enemy to shoot them down. So they're still shooting at other planes and taking them out. That does happen.
But it's not dogfights, is my point.
It's an AI on the console that says you get 5 targets, pick one.
And we're using
he points at it and it's gone.
We're using these cheap autonomous drones. Software and algorithms matter much more in many cases than military hardware. I think
By
about
the way,
the
if you ever get a chance to put on an F-35 helmet, it's a VR.
Yeah.
You can actually see through the plane
Mhm.
as you're flying. They can look under the plane. That used to be a threat. Anybody coming up underneath could take you out. Now the helmet with the plane sensors can show you what's going on in any direction. You're not in a cockpit anymore. You're flying in open
Just like
space.
an F-150 Ford truck.
Pretty much.
Is there an argument to be made that we're stripping away the human decision making from warfare, and
On
is
the
that
nose,
necess-
as I
and
said
Yes.
earlier today.
and
Yes.
is that
That's
necessarily
exactly
a
where
bad
we're
People
going.
aren't fighting the war. Yes.
But is that
Right.
necessarily a bad thing?
Yes.
Well,
Why?
the
Why, Lois?
the good thing
So-
is that you're
Wait a
not
second,
losing
let
your
Lois
guys.
Let Lois jump in. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you have human making decisions about things, then other humans in their same structure are responsible for them, they're accountable for their action. Well, usually. Sometimes the government, the military has, for example, shot down a plane that was a little passenger plane and killed dozens of people, and nobody got punished or anything. But at least there's someone that you can point at and say, they pulled the trigger. They were the ones who showed it. They decided to blow up this thing. If you have AI making decisions about what targets to strike, when to strike them, whether or not they should escalate and use a nuclear bomb instead, if they're deciding that and humans are not, we have lost the ability to control what humans are initiating and doing.
Well, you're supplanting humanity.
Well, yeah.
Because again, if you put your hand in a shark's mouth, the shark is going to bite it off. It's not the shark's fault. Yes, it's an old adage. I've said it many times. But if we then consequently allow the machine to do what the machine is designed to do, yeah, Dave, I'm a little concerned. It doesn't care. It's designed not to care. It has no empathy. Even if it's been programmed in, it will kill you with kindness, or it'll be pretty. Or what was the word earlier? It'll be cute and you'll die. So now I'm getting on my.
And it may say,
do not let me have coffee
oops,
before this meeting.
you know, I'm sorry, I got that answer wrong. Would you like to try to reframe your question?
Well, and the other issue is still that this is a very new technology. We just don't know. What we're seeing in the research that they're doing right now is that, high percentage of the time they are actually choosing their own protection over person's protection. So we don't have enough information about what this technology is capable of to say, hey, let's just let anybody do it, or let's just let it decide on its own. I think the bigger issue with this particular case that we're talking about now is this is really the first kind of glimpse into how the government currently is looking at AI, right? This is the first real legislation it's not even legislation, that is kind of giving us a hint as to what we are currently thinking about in terms of guardrails on AI, which is we don't want them. And anybody who works with AI, even if you just talk to AI, you just talk to your ChatGPT, within 3 or 4 things, it's wrong. It confidently makes things up and it sounds amazing, but it's not right. So I don't think we have a technology that can do that on its own. And we're saying that we would prefer that. That's weird.
It's also a scary problem. Oh, go ahead.
No, please, Bill, go.
Well, I was just saying it's also scary because, you have this potential to think, okay, this is going to be on a hair trigger and it's going to reshape a lot of the world. So we better be first at it. But sometimes when you get into this ready, aim, fire, and you flip it and you become ready, fire, aim. And I see a lot of decisions that are going on right now that smack to me of that ready, fire, aim mentality. We're testing things out there and blowing up things and attacking things and then trying to figure out whether it was the right thing to do afterwards. And that scares me a lot because it's, in terms of military affairs, that's a pretty bad plan.
But that is the strategy of Silicon Valley. Move fast and
Very
break
much
things.
so, Sky.
Move
And
fast
doing
and break
chips,
things.
move fast, break things,
So
get
when you
ahead of the
move-
market,
when you-
dominate the market.
War is not a market. War is
Well,
on the market.
but the
Sorry.
strategy is the same, and that's why.
Because it's a zero-sum game, isn't it? It's a market of
right, but it sure made a lot of people a lot of money back in the Lyndon Johnson era of military-industrial concept.
You're talking about the military-industrial thing. I'm talking about war. I'm not talking about military.
And there's going to be a lot of money.
I'm talking about using it.
There's going to be a lot of money garnered in this next coming time, which is a whole different topic and conversation. And dangerous.
Well, every time you drop $150 million bomb
with a $300 million plane on people that make a $10 day labor, that's a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So that took me on a different rabbit trail. Bill,
the superior Navy, as it were. Yes,
you really, Bill, you let me up in the opportunity that we have to be in control, but again, we're giving control over to things that Hammer inspired me that yes, it's giving us inaccurate information because it's a third grader.
Right.
It's only this AI is not a seasoned knowledge person. And so consequently, when I tell it, you don't have all the information, it comes back very politely and says, oh, you're right. I don't. Well, how would you like me to treat you? It's like, well, I'd kind of like you to do this and this and this. And so, Paskin, I use the last names because we have two Daves in the room here, so I don't mean to sound bad. But so Dave Paskin, when you re-embrace the anthropic potential, you will see that you are training a very smart thing, but you need to tell it how you want it to react to you.
Yeah,
so
I would
stop
push
blaming
back.
the equipment.
Yeah, so I would push back on the argument that both you and I think Tamara made a little bit that, that it gets things wrong all the time. Yeah, it does. It gets things wrong all the time, and it is
Davis doesn't.
It is still smarter in most realms than any and all of us put together.
Thank you.
And
is Disneyland the happiest place on earth? Is it really?
Right. And by the way, the models that we have, I don't know this for a fact, but they are not the models that the Department of Defense is using. The Department of Defense is using custom built, or the integrations are custom built. So even though, yes, there are weaknesses in the systems, even though there are, it is unsure or it makes mistakes or it lies outright. It's not like we don't do that also. It is still smarter than any or all of us put together.
Bill doesn't. Bill doesn't. Bill gets it all right all the time.
Bill gets it all right.
Lois,
I don't disagree with that, but I think...
Wait, let me get Lois in. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, Lois.
Okay, so we have been talking, most of us, from an American perspective or from a Canadian perspective, and we're talking about our military, our government, the entities that we have elected, appointed, whatever, and what they're going to do with it. But this is not just this is consumer grade stuff too. And so anybody in the world who has the ability to get the components can make and deliver and use drones with AI. It doesn't have to be a contract between a government and something. It can be just people. That's the scariest part.
That's a really interesting piece of this puzzle, Lois. I hadn't thought of that. That when we give these tools to the people who maybe should have them, if that's what we believe, and then they create proofs of concept and they use these tools to defeat their enemies, even if it's for good and righteousness, that then shows the rest of us that, oh, look what I can do.
Hey, you can become a programmer.
Right.
That's the key difference between like this and nuclear weapons, for example, right? Because even if you had the brains to do that, you didn't have the tools, you didn't have the accessibility. And the difference between this and AI is that AI is accessible, and one smart person and their computer, they can do things with it. So I think that's why this is so we want there to be a little bit more guardrails, and we want to balance the fact that we don't want to be left behind. I think those are two very real things, and they're opposing kind of items with each other. But I think that's why it's so scary, because it's like anybody can do this. This is very different than other weapons that we've had in the past.
Right. I want
will-
to let me just really quickly bring in Jack Cannon, who's watching in Mukana, and thank you for this clarification, because this is really important. He says that the DoD's LLMs have access to different training information, and then he also says that AI isn't smarter or stupider. It just has access to different info and the least limited horsepower. That's a beautiful way of stating it, that LLMs have the least limited horsepower, because we also have access to all that information, but we are biological beings that don't have unlimited horsepower, as he says it. So I appreciate those clarifications. Dave, did you want to jump in? Did I hear you?
Yeah, having barbecued for colonels in the Navy, my perspective has been that they have a person in charge all the time. It doesn't matter if it's the stockroom, if it's the deployment of an aircraft, somebody is in charge. And I don't think AI is going to be replacing that guy. Just like we've been talking about, the people who know how to make AI do things are the ones who will stay employed, and the AI will be an agent or helper to the person who's doing the thing. And that we're seeing that in production, right? But I'm saying that my trust in the Defense Department comes from having met these people and sat with them and drank. I didn't drink beer with them, I drank pop. But I sat with these guys and they explained to me things that I didn't know the military did and didn't know that we were even capable of doing those things. And one of the things I learned right along the way is that one man has to point the thing and pull the trigger. And the same thing with these drones. They need permission to pull the trigger, and somebody is in charge.
But
Now,
that's precisely.
I don't think they're putting
That's
the AI
exactly.
in
That's
charge.
precisely the challenge that we're facing, is that
Yes.
is no longer the case.
Oh,
Yes,
it
it's
will
the
be,
case with
because
these
the
dumb
AI will only
drones.
be used in helping the person
But
make
see,
the decision.
that-
Oh, come on.
that's a
no,
perfect-
Dave,
No.
That's a
no.
perfect
That's so
example of what's
naive.
wrong with. That's a perfect example of what's wrong with this particular situation. Because you're right, Dave. I don't think that that there is a chance where we're going to be like, oh well, let's just let the AI make all the decisions. But the fact that they said, hey, we don't want it to be used in this, and they didn't say, yeah, we're not going to use it like that. End of story. And then turned around and made the exact same deal that said, yeah, we're not going to use it like that with the other guy. That's the problem of this particular case. It's a punitive case more than something that has anything to do with the military. I think you're right. I think that the people who are in charge of these, like, to think that we don't have scientists in the military who also understand robotics is kind of like ridiculous. We know that we do. So I think that that's where the bigger problem with this is that they're saying, hey, we don't want you to do this. Their point of how they operate is saying we are not going to probably do that. But they turned around and immediately said, no, that's not a problem, and then signed the same deal.
Chuck
So
Swan.
that's why this is so crazy.
Chuck
And
Swan
they-
is asking in, let me just real quick. Chuck Swan is asking in the Mukana, how does one explain chain of command to an AI? I think that's a fascinating question. That's
It
a
is.
really,
So
really interesting question.
And we have a situation now where the restraints and the guardrails that have been
Of what?
have-
Guardrails of what?
have been put on the military are being removed. How many judge advocates have been, kicked out? How many people whose job it is to make sure that things are running well have been removed? I don't think that I trust our military as much as I did 20 years ago.
I don't think I trust much of anybody after. Remember the whole idea of Elon Musk going into the government and cutting all that waste and abuse fraud? And a year later, a lot of things were really messed up, but not much of what the original brief was seemed to get done. He laid off a ton of people. But there's not much more efficiency that I've heard about in any of those systems where they went through with a really dull scythe and just cut out lots of people. So to me, some of the, quote, big brains that we're hoping are going to manage this stuff seems like they have great intellectual capability, but they don't seem to have a sense of thinking beyond the intellectual exercise and really understanding how it affects human beings.
And Bill,
Well,
that's,
you mentioned
that's where,
Mr.
hold on one second,
Musk
Dave.
here just now.
That's where, I'm then I'm going to come to Sky and then you, Dave. Bill, that's my argument, what you just laid out there, for why I think decisions about how AI should be used should be left to the people who develop the AI, to the AI scientists, because they actually understand that. Like, I don't understand how the Department of Defense, which, by the way, it is called the Department of War now. I refuse to do that, but that's another thing. I don't understand how the Department of Defense, or frankly, the Department of Education, or the Department of Transportation, or the Department of anything, should be making rules about something that is not from within their department. The Department of AI should be making decisions about how AI is used and placed throughout government. But of course, we don't have that. We have these private companies, which complicates matters a little bit. Sky and Dave, go ahead.
The thought that came to mind was, after the earthquake in Port-au-Prince, I was there on the site and I saw people with shovels digging holes, doing things. And then somebody said, hey, let's just bring in a bulldozer, which we can do now. And somebody said, don't do that, because you are now putting 10 people out of work and starving 10 families. Yes, it's more efficient, but you're not thinking of the human impact. You are thinking of your personal, solving a problem, but you're not thinking of the greater problem of humanity. So this is the component that I want to continue to bring in. And my gut says Tony's going to bring it home after Dave. Put it on you. Thinking that
I was, I had a thought way back when Bill was talking about control and centralization, and now I remember what it is. During the Ukraine war, both sides were using Starlink. And Mr. Musk made a choice for the Ukraine. At first, he wanted to be hands-off. He said, well, it's up to you guys to figure out how to defeat the other guy's Starlink. But then he realized they couldn't, because he had built it that way. And so he went and created a system where everybody was cut off in a certain region, both Ukraine and the USSR. I call them the USSR. They aren't anymore. They're Russia. And they had to re-register, but only the Ukrainians had the right link. And the Russians had a fake link. So that all these guys were re-registering their stuff and telling the enemy where they were. Now, I find it funny that, someone could be fooled that way, but that's what happens under the ground with the defense departments of the world. And this is how phones were blowing up in the pockets of people in Lebanon, is because the government had a trick that nobody else had. So I think, we have to be able to recognize the military knows what its obligation is. It can't go too far. And we do not want it used against our citizens, and that's true. I think you guys got a problem in terms of standing up for yourselves and telling the government how you freaking want things done, and not to say, it's okay, you want to talk about the economy. Oh, yeah, right. Now, what we have here with our new prime minister is we have a new ministry of AI. And that, I think, was what I just heard. Somebody should have authority over the AI.
That's interesting.
Yes, we do.
So
yeah,
what is the role of that? Do you know?
It's to explore its use in government, in all factors of government, how AI can be used and how it should be controlled. And we had a big problem with the payment system in the government. It wasn't paying anybody's paychecks for months at a time. And it was a new system built specifically for the government. And it took months to get it all figured out. And people were suing the government not getting paid. But now we have a guy who's going to oversee all that kind of implementation, and it includes the implementation of AI across all governments.
And this guy, is he an engineer? Is he a scientist? Is he a politician?
No, he comes out of the college of Sheraton College, which is a big AI college.
All right, that's great.
Well,
by the way, all the animators in Hollywood are graduates of Sheraton. All the Pixar guys are Sheraton grads. Yeah.
We do have a new DHS person. Does that count?
I don't know why Homeland isn't a rallying cry to get, anti-fascist. I mean, the Homeland Security.
Let's stick
Third rail.
Yeah. Let's ignore Sky for a little bit here. Hey Tony, can I hear your voice? No, I can't because he's muted. See, that was kind of a trick question.
I'm struggling.
Every week, Tony. Every week, you know what the topic is ahead of time. You walk in here, and every week, I'm struggling.
It's the way in which the conversation goes and what we're talking about. So
I want to hear Tony talk about people who serve in the military. That's what I want.
I was in a different space when I came into the conversation initially, and then as we, break this conversation down and share it, I have a lot of discomfort. So let me just say this. Just to piggyback on what Sky was saying about the shovels and the bulldozers, the other side of that was that there is a risk, and I wasn't in Port-au-Prince, and I'm going to say this as a disclaimer, but I would guarantee you that the bulldozers were more of efficient, as Sky said, but there was also a danger of not actually being able to pull bodies. And the shovels was a more efficient way in order to get the bodies out. Having said that, I will say that I was struggling with what a lot of Dave said in terms of the trust in the leadership, from the standpoint of he was speaking about his country and he was not speaking about ours. And so that's a different take, I think. So that I think that's important, that you have the trust and the confidence that things will be done in a certain way based on your interaction and the way things are. Having said that, I would go back to some of the earlier conversations that I had when we talked about AI and technology in general, that you cannot devoid, if you're not going to have human interaction in these things, you have to program some ethics, compassion, and that's kind of contrary to the way the design of machines. Machines are designed to win the game at whatever cost. So how do you have a machine operate in war? And in our earlier conversation about laws can be changed to do whatever people want to do. So it really does, for me, and I'm speaking for me, comes back to this whole idea of compassion for people, even in the midst of war. Because if it's left up to a machine, then the machine will do whatever it has to do in order to achieve its goal. That's it.
And I think that one of the arguments could be that that's true, that a machine does whatever it needs to do to reach its goal, and our job is to give it the right goals. Our job is to create goals born out of compassion, born out of trust, born out of faith, born out of all those things. I do want to say one thing about the comment about the government, and we don't really get into politics here. So my concern about, and I think the concern about AI and the government has nothing to do with who's in office. I think it's much bigger than any one person. I think it is about structures and systems that our government, or probably any government, is. No, you know what? I'm going to say this with even more certainty. No government in the world knows or is prepared for how AI is going to continue to change our world. And so any government that has a sense of security about decisions that they're making and is ready to, without hesitation, say that give over the weapons to these autonomous LLMs or tools, I just think that that's the height of
Hubris.
Hubris.
Right.
It's a terrible mistake. And at the same time, what I said before, and I'm going to honor Jack's comment where he said they're not smarter, but in honoring that, I'm also going to say that these AI systems, technology now, it's giving PhD level answers to questions that I don't have a PhD in, which to me feels like it's smarter than me and smarter than most, if not all people. And it doesn't have that. It's, there's a reason why we all believe, I think, in autonomous vehicles, and why autonomous vehicles will really only work when there aren't autonomous vehicles with human beings driving vehicles. It really will only work when everything out there is autonomous. So on the one hand,
it's still a question of it's not
it's
just
all
government,
questions.
it's business,
It's all
it's
questions.
Right.
everything in terms of AI, because the fact of the matter is that again, it's about the bottom line with all things, and we as humans have not gotten to the place that universally we are concerned and have compassion for other humans. It's about the bottom line,
Right.
the return on investment. And it continues to be that way. And it's even more so. So the thing that we have to be strategic in fighting the developers, the creators, and asking them or encouraging them to make sure that they have that back door built in where the humanness is part of the way in which this technology works. If we don't, we're lost.
I'm just going to play
Because there's no
Tony,
incentive to change.
I just want to push
There
back
is
a
no
little
incentive
bit.
to change.
I just want to push back a little bit. And look, I love you, brother. It's all about compassion. It's all about love. It's all about all of that. And I'm a person of faith myself. I'm with you. And every war for the past however many thousands of years has been started by the compassionate people. It's been started by and waged by those of us who have access to compassion, who have access to all those things. So I don't know that it can get any worse if we give some of that over. I'm just not sure.
I don't agree.
I know
David,
how
I have
this is
I don't
going to.
agree.
Oh, here we go.
I know how this is going to end because David,
Sky,
Paskin, you are a
Sky,
brilliant.
Bill,
you are-
Tamara, go.
You are a brilliant producer, David, because you left out David Troutman's request. So I'm going to tease it
For the
because
cheese?
next week. No,
Oh, okay.
poutine.
Yeah. Isn't that cheese?
We have to talk about poutine.
He talked about it in his introduction.
Yeah, you weren't paying
That's
attention.
all that needs to
over
be
it.
said.
I mean, if things that need to
The
be
tech
talked
of
about,
food is a great thing. I mean, we should talk about the tech
we
of
need
food.
see. This is the tease for next week. I'm helping you, Dave.
This is
Yeah.
so not the
This is
tease
the
for next
tease.
week. Dave, go ahead. Bill,
Oh, it's Bill next.
sorry. Bill.
Oh, I just wanted to. It's not a pushback, but okay. So you want autonomous driving cars because it's going to be more efficient. Now, my question is: do you allow the programmers to put in an override system so if a pregnant woman gets in the car with her husband and he would normally break all the speed limits because that's a higher priority for him, is it okay to trash the rest of the system and speed them through one person over the success of everybody else in order to get that taken care of? Or do you
You call the
disallow that
autonomous
so that the
ambulance.
system works better?
It's a great
call
question.
the autonomous ambulance that has the priority in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a
This
wonderful.
isn't an ambulance. This is just a regular day-to-day thing.
No, but
Sure,
that's the
but,
trolley. That's the trolley argument. The trolley argument of if you go this way, you hit a family. If you go this way, you hit a whatever. And which would the AI choose? Which would we choose? Which would the AI choose? My argument is that we both get it wrong. Tamara, go ahead.
I think the part that Tony is saying, I think, is accurate. The truth is, we are losing humanity every single day, and we're training these AI on a faulty sense of what humanity means. And so when we're saying we're just willing to give that up, then that to me is worth fighting for. And the people who are in these discussions having knowledge of AI and playing with it and really utilizing it to do amazing things at the same time that it has the potential to do all of these dangerous things, it is kind of up to us, because the truth of the matter is, one of the reasons that it's only being discussed in these high level money making things is because the average person, it's Google Plus for them. And so, we have entire congressional people who are depending on to set these guide rails who literally don't have any clue as to what this is. So it is more important than ever for us to be doubling down on humanity and doubling down in our own communities and in our community in general and in the broader community. Because
can I get an amen?
Yeah,
amen.
That's where it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's call it for tonight. It's 10:20 my time. Last week I made the mistake of teasing next week's show, which ended up not being next week's show because
this
life
week
happened
weird.
and this was but this became such a rich
Topic preemption.
Dave really kind of just captured my attention with this, and of course it's so timely, and there's more to say about this, and I'm so grateful that we're able to, I think this is maybe where I disagreed somewhat with some of the restrictions in the office hours communities, that I think that we can have really thoughtful, engaging conversations about religion and politics and all that stuff. And I think we're adults. I think that we can do this. And
it's taken us 5 years, and we know each other intimately, and we want to be next to each other.
Maybe
so
that's what it is. And
respect,
still realize that our angle, our unique angle, at least in this space, is the technology angle. And so, in any case, I'm so grateful to my regular friends Lois and Sky and Tamara and Tony, and my special friend Bill Davis, and Dave, not only for being my friend, but for challenging me to think about this tonight. For those of you who maybe are finding this and you're not part of the Office Hours community, head on over to officehours.global, and there's a little sign up button there. Sign up. If you're interested in technology and Stream Decks and poutine, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And come back every Thursday night. We are here on the rundown. Tony's conversation with Tony Mobley is on Wednesday night. Bill is on every other day of the week. Literally every day of the week. Bill.
No, really just Tuesday. But
okay.
I was on yesterday and Tuesday.
Yeah, that's why
I think I'm going to be
on
there Friday. I don't know.
All right.
It's crazy.
Well, you see, we're all over the place. We'll be here tomorrow for the Zoom Test Kitchen, and we'll see you all later. Have a lovely night. Bye, everyone.
Show.